Thank you. Sound check. Please raise your hand if I'm audible and visible. Thank you. Good evening, professional speakers and guests of professional speakers, and could be, would be, should be professional speakers. As president of this club, it is my pride and my privilege to open this meeting number 105. I will do so by reciting the club mission statement. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop their communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self confidence and personal growth. Now, before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Nitin Gupta and Anant Katyani, distinguished Toastmaster Anant Katyani, as the guests of our meeting. Gentlemen, both of you are immensely welcome to this meeting. I would like to also tell you a story, and some of you might have heard it before, so please pardon me if I sound repetitive. This is about a famed economist, and I know that I've got a couple of economists in here. His name was Lasky, and Lasky is supposed to have met Gandhi in the 1930s, and he's supposed to have tell him that what kind of a freedom are you looking for? Because the freedom that I see is going to leave your country in anarchy. It is going to leave it in tatters. People will fight amongst themselves. It will be a land full of corruption, full of deceit. And what Gandhi gave as a reply is something that I will tell you later onwards. I would right now like to start with the short term goals. Before we start with the short term goals, I would also like to remind you that today, instead of table topics and the Power Talk speech, we have our moments of truth. So it is a strong recommendation from my side to the members not to leave after the meeting gets over, because I would like to discuss the results of the moments of truth with you all. I will begin by sharing my screen, and as it often happens, there are two things that I have a problem in Zoom with. One is unmuting myself when required, and the other is sharing my screen. I have located my icon and I am about to share the screen. Here it goes. Share. Once again, let's start with our short term goals. And I realize that I have to put this on in slide mode. Uh, can somebody help me with as okay, there is the present button. This is the one button that I often miss. Okay, so as your name appears on the screen, I will ask everyone to talk about their short term goals. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. This is Aditya. My short term goal is to shoot out 90 posts in the next 90 days by 30th September. I'm happy to announce that I'm 30% there. And by next week, I'll be adding another short term goal to the list of my goals, which will be to increase my reading speed by a significant amount. I will have the exact numbers and the goal put in smart format by next week and will update you all. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Anshupriya Prasad, and my short-term goal is to improve my listening skills. And by this year end, I have a goal of uh, to have 50% increase in my listening skills. So I'm working on it. Thanks.
Hello everyone, I'm Devna Chaturvedi. My short-term goal is to upload one dance tutorial on YouTube and use 5 new words phrases in every prepared speaking assignment. It's also to write 3 short stories inspired by my experiences as a lifelong student of dance. And my progress in this week has been that I've written one more story.
Very good.
Hello everyone, I am Mukesh Thakur and currently I am working on my short-term SMART goal for pronunciation and enunciation. And I will get this short-term SMART goal completed once I receive a feedback from all of you, 9.5 out of 10. For this, I have been working for this over the week. However, there will be progress in my short-term goals only when you all will put uh, your rating. So for this week, I have there is no progress because I could not get any response from all of you in my last week's table topics session. So I urge all of you to please give me feedback so that I can progress on my short-term goals. Thank you.
Raj doesn't seem to be here. We will move on. Rolly doesn't seem to be here either. My short term goal is to learn to smile naturally by September 26, 2020, and practicing. I'm practicing to smile for 30 minutes every day, and I'm trying to incorporate smiles into speaking opportunities. What I would like the audience to do today, because I have a prepared speech, is to randomly uh, not only during my prepared speech but also to randomly check on me like 9 or 10 times and then tell me how many times was I smiling when they kind of looked up. So I'll try and smile for as long as possible, and I'll try not to look stupid at it at the same time.
Very good evening to all the members and guests. I have two smarter goals for this year. One is to better command on English language by reading one novel per month, by writing two blogs per month, and take online grammar test. For this, I progress on around 10% because I have only completed the one novel, which is Mindset, and I have completed two speeches, written speeches as a draft. Second, to record impromptu speaking on any topic which I could not do because of professional challenges. I will try to cover in next week. Over to you, President.
And moving on. Shukriya.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shivpriya, and my short-term goal focuses on my writing skills. I have kept a target of writing 9 articles by December 31st, 2020. Currently, I have written only three, and my progress is at 33%. Also, have kept a target for myself to ensure that my posts weekly, I write 3 posts, which has an average reach of over 1,000. I'm happy to say that it reached more than 1,000 in the last week. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Shukriya. So welcome once again to Professional Speakers, where eloquence meets impact. With that, I will stop sharing my screen once I get a hang of where my, oops, there it is. Got it. Thank you. So, as I was telling you about that story of the economist, his name was Lasky, and he met Gandhi and he said all those things to him. Now, Gandhi listened to him very patiently, as was his habit to do, and then he gave the reply. He said that, Mr. Lasky, what you say could be absolutely true, and it might come true, and maybe it will be an anarchy, maybe we will break apart, Maybe somebody else will come and rule over us. But you know what? That is not going to be your problem. It is going to be our problem. And we would like to have our problems instead of the ones that are imposed by you. Now, I'm not an economist, and I can't tell you if the story is true or not. But as my critics, the people who say mean things about me behind my back, say, why let facts get in the way of a good story? So this was a good story. I wanted to share it, and particularly about an economist. Why about an economist? Because our Toastmaster of the day today that I'm going to introduce just recently completed her MSc in economics. Now, I would say that apparently she completed, because to me economics is an art subject, and doing an MSc in an art subject. But then my father has also done an MA in math, so I'll probably give her the benefit of advantage. But I'm digressing and I'm joking, of course, because this person who I'm going to introduce to you as Toastmaster of the day is someone to whom I actually look up for advice. She is my go to person every time I have a doubt about any of the things that I'm going to do. And I'm very proud and privileged to have her in my circle of friends. Today, she is going to talk about something called the Great Peacemaker. I am intrigued what it is. It is an economics concept. Is it something, is it some sort of spiritual learning? I don't know. But I can tell you that I am really eager to find out what it is. So please help me welcome a person who could capture attention in her sleep, the distinguished Toastmaster, Devina Chaturvedi. Let's have a round of applause first. Devina Chaturvedi, the great peacemaker, Devina Chaturvedi. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Presiding Officer. Let's have a huge round of applause and welcome everybody who's joined this meeting today to the 105th meeting of professional speakers. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Having said that, that's our club mission. There's another sort of essence, the essence of professional speakers, however, lies in the statement where eloquence meets impact, and that's what we're here to achieve today. Coming on to the theme of the meeting, the great peacemaker, the greatest peacemaker. The person who the founder of Toastmasters, Dr. Ralph C. Smedley, referred to as the great peacemaker is, in my opinion, perhaps the greatest peacemaker. You ask why? Because he is the person who introduced Robert's Rules of Orders. And he's none other than General Henry Robert himself. So those rules are named after him. The concept of the rules is something that's up for debate. It's all about parliamentary procedure and how a meeting should flow. But what I want to talk to you about today is the man behind those rules, and why are those rules so important to our meetings, and why have they become such an essential part of how we conduct our business? Let me just give you one little thing, which is something I also relate with a lot, and that is the concept of finding method in madness. If I tell you, I know you'll probably have a hard time believing the existence of Robert's Rules of Order today is just because there was this person, an army man, who was just trying to find some method in the madness that was conducting a business meeting. He was once elected to be a chairman for one meeting. Imagine, one meeting, not a club, not an event, just one meeting. And he started to read up about how he should conduct business for that one meeting. And this is way back in the 1860s. Their internet access was obviously not there. Even access to books was limited because not many had been written by then, especially not on parliamentary procedure. And the ones that had been written deviated so much from what was the commonly accepted norm that he had a hard time adapting them for that one meeting that he was elected the chairman for. So what he did was came up with 10, just 10 basic rules, which became one pamphlet later on. And that was what he used to conduct that one meeting. That's all. That is how this entire book and so many volumes of Robert's Rules of Order have come into play. It is impressive to think about it. If you see, just because somebody saw a tiny gap in information for everybody around them, they came up with something that's so widely accepted today. And that's what something we've been doing with professional speakers as well. It's something that we all felt the need of. We all felt that there was something that was missing with the regular Toastmasters program that we were all excelling at so much. That is why we came up with professional speakers, and which is why our meetings are slightly different from a regular Toastmasters meeting. In our meeting, we have usually 6 segments, but today we have 5 of them. The first segment that you saw was the business segment, which is where we shared our goals and our progress. The second segment is going to be that of the professional speech, where one of the members of our club will be delivering an 18-minute prepared speech in a professional manner. It can be on any topic, it can be of any kind, informational, motivational, entertaining. And let's hear from what the professional speaker today has to say. After that, we'll jump into the prepared speeches segment, where 2 of our members, following some particular projects that either they've developed or are from the Toastmasters education program, which is the Pathways Learning Experience, will be delivering 2 such speeches individually, 1 per person, obviously, if that wasn't clear. There'll be 5 to 7 minute speeches today, and of course, they will also be full of learnings. Please note, for the professional speech as well as for the prepared speakers, we will all be required to note down our feedback, because at the end, when we jump into the evaluation segment, anybody can be called upon to give their feedback. So make sure you have a pen and paper handy to note down your feedback and your suggestions for our speakers to improve. The next segment in our meeting will be the evaluation segment today, where our general evaluator will take us through the evaluation segment, as well as our supportive auxiliary role players will provide their reports on how we fared. People helping us today with evaluations are our general evaluator, Toastmaster Sandeep. Let's have a round of applause for him. Our counter, distinguished Toastmaster Shivpriya Gauri. Our timer, Toastmaster Hani Khanduja. And our grammarian, Toastmaster Anshu Priya. May I request our grammarian to please introduce the word of the day at this point?
Okay, just a sec. Let me share a slide. So word of the day for today is brevity. It's a noun, and pronunciation is brevity. The meaning of the word is concise and exact use of words or few words in writing or in speech. Second meaning of this word is shortness of time. You can use it like this. Brevity is in almost everything a virtue. Brevity can make our TT speeches more impactful. Third example is brevity is the soul of the soul of a wit. It's a proverb. Okay, now over to you, Devina.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. So that brings us to 4 segments of the meeting. The 5th and the final segment today will be our moments of truth, where we've already given our evaluation for how we think that the club has fared on several parameters, but now we'll be taking some time to discuss them and figure out ways to improve, not just the club, but also ourselves, so that we become people worthy of the club that we're trying to build at Professional Speakers. Let's jump right into the meeting and invite our professional speaker of the day. Today, this role is being taken up by Toastmaster Aditya. He's a listener, learner, speaker. Toastmaster Aditya lives his life on the inside out philosophy. He stands by the law of 33% and makes every attempt to spend 33% of his time with people way ahead of him to learn from them, another 33% of his time with peers, family, friends, and the rest 33% in sharing those learning with others to help them grow. He has set out on a mission to lead a meaningful life and impact 1 million lives by 2030. Please help me welcome professional speaker Aditya Gupta, Ayurveda Wisdom, Getting in Sync with Your True Nature. Ayurveda Wisdom, Getting in Sync with Your True Nature, Toastmaster Aditya Gupta. Toastmaster Aditya, we can't hear you at the moment.
Sorry about that, was on mute. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Madam Timot. Could you please confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible and you're adequately visible.
All right, thank you. By show of hands, how many of you know yourself? Come on, that's a very common question. Okay. Speaker one, Mukesh Thakur, says he doesn't. All right. The follow-up question, how many of you really know yourself? Random raise of hands. All right. I'm sure when we talk about how many of us know ourselves, we are usually trying to figure out in the terms of our likes, our dislikes, our beliefs, our values, what works for you, what does not work for you, where do you like to eat, hang out, chill with, network, work, passion, etc., etc., etc. And all of us also know that my likes can be different from your likes, your beliefs can be different from somebody else's beliefs, your values may differ from somebody else's values. And what may work for you may not work for somebody else. And Ayurveda says there is something very deep, a lot deeper than our likes, dislikes, values, beliefs. It is our constitution, not the nation's constitution, but our constitution, what we are made of. Ayurveda explains that everything around us, inside us that we see is made up of 5 elements: air, water, earth, space, and fire. That's all. Everything around us that you see is made up of these 5 elements. And when these 5 elements are charged with the pranic life force, they combine to form 3 doshas, as called in Ayurvedic language. They are Vat, Pit, and Kapha. To give you a better context, I'll just quickly share my screen and please confirm if you could see it. Give me 1 second. Just a moment. Yeah, could you see my screen? Madam Timot, could you please confirm? Can you see my screen? All right.
Yeah, we can see.
Thank you, Techmaster. All the 5 elements, when charged with pranic forces, combine to form these 3 doshas: Vat, Pit, and Kapha. And these 3 are the building blocks in everything that exists, including the human beings. And our existence is just a play among these forces. And the balance among these doshas is what determines our state of health. It is as simple as when these 3 doshas are in their ideal balanced state, we feel strong. Our organs function properly. We experience a sense of well-being. And even if one of them goes out of balance, you cannot imagine what they do to our health. All the diseases, worry, depression, anxiety, fear, all of them arise out of them. And these are just the mental aspects I'm talking about. They also control the physical aspects of our health. Our constitution, also known as Prakruti, is decided both by the dominant dominant dosha of the moment itself and the season we are born in and the time of the day, and by the dominant doshas of our parents, of course. And the constitution we are born with stays with us lifelong. Each dosh controls different aspects of our being, and each of them is located in different parts of the body. All of us have all the doshas within, but usually one of them is predominant. If I talk about myself, I am Pit Vat, PV, and the way we read it is Pit Vat. That means Pit is the dominant emotion, and Vat is not so dominant as compared to Pit. Now, let me tell you something about each of those doshas, starting with Vat. Vat can be described as the force that allows all the movements within the body. It controls our entire nervous system. And when this goes out of balance, it can cause rise to emotions like fear and anxiety. Coming to Pit, this is the transformative force within us. This is what allows things to be converted or metabolized. Not just the food, thoughts, beliefs, our experiences as well. Pitta powers our intellect and it helps make sense of our life experience. And when this goes out of balance, this can cause you irritability, impatience, and anger. Moving to Kaf, this is the force of cohesion, which keeps it all together. This is what keeps the complete body lubricated and is what makes us emotional beings. When this goes out of balance, it can give rise to negative emotions like lethargy, greed, possessiveness, even depression. Now, this is about the three doshas. Coming on to how can we determine which type Prakruti or dosh do we have in our body? It is fairly easy to determine what type you are. A skilled and experienced practitioner of Ayurveda will be able to tell a great deal about you just by listening to your pulse. You can get a pulse diagnosis done at any Ayurvedic clinic. Now, the first time I got that done, the practitioner took my wrist, put his 2 fingers on my pulses, and he started writing the prescription. And he literally told me a great deal about my life, which I was currently going through. Let's say physical, emotional, the kind of emotions I feel on a regular basis, the kind of lifestyle I'm currently leading, and the kind of lifestyle I should be leading for a healthy, to be in a healthy state regularly. You could either pay a visit to an Ayurvedic clinic, or you could fill up a questionnaire about your mental and physical characteristics and determine your doshas. They are easily available all over the internet. I'll quickly share a sample with you of how the questionnaire looks like. So on the left-hand side, you would mainly see the mental characteristics of yours. For example, on top left, Vata says, people who have dominant doshas Vata, they change mind quickly and easily. They think creatively, have lots of ideas and visions. So if you think you relate more to that type, you take on that part. Those are on the mental aspects. On the right-hand side, you would see the physical characteristics of your body. Moist, how's your skin? Is it moist, warm, freckled, thin? Are you prone to inflammations like acne, etc.? Do you have medium eyebrows, thin, small, thick, etc., etc., etc.? It's a questionnaire of about 30 to 40 questions about yourself. And when you fill all of that, there's a way in which you rate yourself, and the way we combine scores will tell you your dosh. And when you're done calculating the scores, you could be in one of the 10 possibilities of the personality types, which is either Vat, or Pit, or Kaf, or a Vat Pit, a Pit Vat, a Kaf Vat, or a Vat Kaf, Pit Kaf, Kaf Pitta, or the rarest, Vat, Pit, and Kaf. Now, enough with the sharing screen, and let me ask you a question and feel free to unmute yourself and answer. We've all read the instruction manual of our cars, mobile phones, the devices, the laptops that we use in our day-to-day lives. Or let's be honest, nobody of us really reads the instruction manual given there, but we know how the devices function. Now, how many of you know at least 80% features of your mobile phone or the laptops do you use on an everyday basis? All right, quite a few. And even if not 80%, I'm sure pretty well versed with how the device functions and how to make complete use of it. How many of us have actually bothered to read the instruction manual of one device which we carry our whole life? Our body. Suppose you get into a car and you know nothing about that car. Where the accelerator is, where is the brake, at which speed should I drive to get the maximum fuel efficiency? And you just throw around random, pulling different levers, moving in any direction, doing anything you can and thinking that things should work. You will not just be a dangerous person for yourself, but you'll also be a dangerous person inside a car for the people around you. And this is exactly what's been happening around us. We hardly care about how our body and mind function. We think we put anything inside it, handle it any way we want, and it will function at its best. And that is far from reality. Believe it or not, in Ayurveda, for every type of Prakriti, there are set guidelines about the kind of food one should eat, about the kind of exercise one should do, the diseases one is prone to, even the kind of colors one should wear for yielding the maximum benefits. The food that works for you may not work for me. What may cool you down might aggravate my anger and cause inflammation inside me. The exercise that might work for me may not work for you. And not just that, it can also tell you the kind of leadership qualities you possess, the amount of exercise you need. Did you know by doing the wrong kind of exercises, you may actually be doing more harm than good? For example, talking about myself, I'm a Pittavat Prakriti. Pittas are very hot-headed because of the fire element inside them. They're good leaders, make charismatic speakers, but they should not do the exercises which require a lot of energy and exertion and heavy weightlifting. Instead it is recommended they should get into more relaxing exercises which will calm down the fire inside them. For example, golf, swimming, meditation, relaxing yoga, which will give them the coolness that they need. The same is true for every other Prakriti that's out there, out of the 10 possibilities that we just talked about. Aligning our lifestyle according to our constitution can be one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves. And once we do that, we would have overcome our biggest rival, which is mostly in almost all the cases ourselves. What goes on inside us and not what goes on the outside. While there are specific eating tips for each constitution, and delving into that will take a lot more time because this science is very, very, very deep. I want to leave you with some common Ayurvedic principles for eating. And I'm sure since childhood, we would have heard it all the time. And take this as a quick reminder. I'll just share my screen to share those slides with you. Eat only when hungry, drink only when thirsty. When it comes to the amount of food and the liquid that our body needs to function on a day-to-day basis, we are highly under, in fact, we are very mismatched on the numbers. And okay, going a bit far-fetched, not all of us want to live a yogic lifestyle, but actual yogis, they consume, in fact, they eat only one meal a day and they have more energies than you and I combined because they know how their body functions. Believe it or not. Go to gym all you want, try to build the muscles all you want. That is, and the having said that, all the diet tips that we get from our gym, all the supplements that we take, they do more harm than good to our bodies. We should eat only when we are hungry, drink only when we are thirsty. Our bodies are not the same every single day. In fact, our bodies are not the same every 4 hours. Did you know what? Pitta, Kapha, they are not just inside our body, they are in the whole universe. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, one of the Prakriti is dominant. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, one Prakriti is dominant. From 2 to 6, another Prakriti is dominant. And then the cycle is repeated. In Ayurveda, it is even defined that in those 4 hour periods, if these are the kind of activities that you do, you will yield maximum benefits. Moving on to the second one, never eat when you're emotionally disturbed. We become what we eat. We are nothing more or less than what we eat. And the intention with which we consume something is the intention with which the living organism, call it plants, for example, the kind of food we eat, manifests itself in ourselves, and is exactly the same the result that it gives. Don't eat when you're emotionally disturbed. We end up doing more harm than good. Never ever ever drink fruit juice or eat fruits with the meal. It's best to have fruits separately. Never overeat. Stop before you feel completely full. Don't even eat till your stomach is empty. Leave a tiny portion of your stomach always empty. Our bodies and mind, they function best on an empty stomach. And there's a difference between hunger and empty stomach. If you have a big presentation to give, a big speech to give, a big interview to crack, make sure you have a gap of 1 to 1.5 hours between your interview and the last time you had your meal. Never sit to work right after you have a big meal. Your brain is not designed to function that way. Now, with that, these are some of the habits that will take time to develop if we are already not living the kind of lifestyle we talked about. This is a science which is very, very wide and very, very deep. And if you want to explore the different dimensions of life, the kind of experiences you have, feel free to examine it, try it. I've been practicing it for close to 6 months now. It has given me a lot of benefits. I highly recommend some of you, in fact, all of you, to go ahead and give it a try. With that, I hand it over back to you, Madam Timot.
Thank you, Mr. Professional Speaker, for that informational come inspirational talk as the professional speaker of the day. I've learned many new things and we'll be talking about it more in the evaluation segment, but let me ask everyone here to take 1 minute to jot down feedback for our professional speaker of the day. If the timer may please indicate at the end of 1 minute. Thank you, Madam Timer. As mentioned by our presiding officer, please let's take a moment to welcome our District Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Nimish Joseph, to our humble club professional speakers. That brings us to the end of the first segment, which is the professional speech. Now we'll jump into the prepared speeches section. But before that, let me just tell you one really interesting fact about Robert's Rules of Orders. Can you imagine that these rules, which now are widely accepted across Toastmasters International and many such organizations, were actually rejected by several publications before one fine publication accepted to print them? They were rejected by about 17 different publications over 5 years before they were accepted to go to print. Such was the determination of General Henry Robert to ensure that we all can conduct our meetings successfully and without any hassles. It does deserve a round of applause, but also so does the determination of our prepared speakers today to work through the Toastmasters program and ensure that they're learning every single time they take the stage. Today we have two speakers. Our first speaker is Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur. Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur comes from a community that is lazy in speaking, which is that of chartered accountants. He believes that no one should be lazy in communication and thus derives his passion for Toastmasters from this belief. In 2009, he authored Guide to Financial Instruments, a book published by Taxman Publications. He enjoys watching movies, traveling to new places, and playing chess. He indulges in many adventures, including but not limited to coming to the stage frequently. A Toastmaster for over 5 years, he is on his way to becoming a voracious reader, writer, and speaker. Today, he is delivering a self-developed project called Bringing Clarity, with threefold objectives: to pronounce each word correctly, to enunciate each word appropriately, and to ensure appropriate pause. In addition to your general feedback, for the speaker, I request all of you to please take some time to provide feedback on this form that I'm sharing in the chat right now, which has also been developed by the speaker himself. Now let's welcome with a huge round of applause, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur, contestant number one. Contestant number one, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the Day. Can you please confirm if I am audible and visible? Thank you very much. They say that they are not going to hold the humorous speech contest in the Toastmasters year 2020-21. This year, my friend, will be known as the dark year of the century, not because it has COVID-19 outreach, not because there is an overall recession, but because, my friend, you will be missing the laughter that you had in the humorous speech contests. The district as a whole will go into the depression as laughter will see the dusk of the day. You will inspire people in the international speech contest. You will change the life of the target speakers with your evaluations. You will master the skill of instant answering without knowing the subject in the table topics contest. But you will not know where the funny one in your body exists. Oh, is it? Good evening, members and guests. They might get contests out of the humorous speech, but they cannot get the humor out of the speeches. In the name of our favorite humorous speech contest, let's take a pledge that we shall make international speech contest, evaluation contest, and table topics contests as humorous speech contests. Recently, I have had an experience of contesting in one of the contests. I had put the life, heart, and soul of my mentors into it. When the contest chair announced the result and they did not find my name in the list, they were more devastated than me. That incident kept me thinking about how relevant the contests are in our journey to become an impactful speaker. I look at the greatest speakers of the world, Dr. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, who changed the world through their single speeches. But they did not win any contests. However, contests are one of the greatest tools that can make us work on our nuances and bring dexterity in our delivery and content. Contesting, contesting is one of the best things that you can do in the Toastmasters. However, making your decisions based on the contest result is not a good idea. One, by hoping to win the contest, I am predicting to control the things that are outside of my control. What I can control are our content and our delivery. I cannot control the circumstances that are running beyond my imagination. It is possible that there was a tie at all of the positions, and each of the position was decided by the tie-breaking judge who was sleeping, thinking that people don't take them seriously. Two, one of the barriers of the objective halo effect, reverse halo effect, your sequence may have worked against you, your speech. It is also possible that it is an online contest and your microphone decided not to work for you for that 5 to 7 minutes. It is possible that your content and delivery is not up to that mark and you need to work a lot. You might become the world champion of public speaking, but if you are not able to bring the good back to your personal and professional lives, the entire effort is going to be wasted. It is also possible that you have been treated unfairly. However, leverage that to become more resilient and robust. Blaming, complaining, and making an excuse will not go to take you anywhere. Instead of getting exhilarated on winning the contest or getting devastated on losing the contest, we must express our gratitude for making these contests happen. On winning, thank the organizers, your fellow contestants, and the Toastmasters International as a whole, because you would not have won had they not been there. When you lose, think, thank everyone because everyone has worked for you to make you acknowledge your areas of improvement that could not have known otherwise. Hence, contests are going to be our power tools. But the contest results are not. If the speech is lifted, we will make the rest of the speeches humorous. If all the contests are lifted, we will deliver all the speeches in our club meetings. Winning contest doesn't matter, and losing the contest is an opportunity. However, whenever there is a contest, I will pull my heart, my soul, and life, and you will find me there as a contestant number one. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh, for that wonderful speech. We will now be taking a minute to jot down our feedback for the speaker. And need I remind, there is a link in the chat that the speaker has requested your feedback on as well. If the timer may please remind me at the end of 1 minute. Thank you, Madam Timer. Our next speaker today is distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. a compulsive connoisseur, a lethargic laggard, a sound sleeper, those of you who know Rupinder have every right to be surprised at how he achieved so much in Toastmasters. When asked about it, he cheerfully replies, "Me too." Father to a handsome son who he believes has taken after his father, a self confessed wonderful husband. The only area of his personality that faces a difference of opinion is his humor skills. He thinks he's hilarious, but people think he's insufferable. On a serious note, though, when he's not lazing, eating, or sleeping, Rupinder helps people improve as a learning and development professional or attends a Toastmaster meeting. Sometimes he wonders how he got so far. Then he looks at his friends and family and realizes just how fortunate he is. Today, delivering from the path motivational strategies, level 1, mastering fundamentals, the project research and presenting with the objectives for the member to learn or review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic is distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. Ownership is overrated. Ownership is overrated. DTM Rupinder.
A few weeks ago, I was privy to a conversation that focused on the online meeting application that we should use. One of the arguments I heard against Zoom was that it was a Chinese product. I found the argument absurd, interesting, because it is factually incorrect. Zoom was founded by a US citizen of Chinese origin. Fellow Toastmasters and dear guests, I stand here today to question that argument. My counter argument is, should I reject a product or a service just on the basis of its country of origin? My opinion is no. We should not, because to me, the quality of a product or a service is a bigger factor than its place of origin. Now, before I illustrate my reason with some examples, I would like you to know that in no way am I saying that ownership is useless. Ownership is essential as far as establishing accountability is concerned. But in my opinion, beyond that, ownership just becomes an ego right. Now to the examples. Those of you who know me will also know of my dislike for Apple products. I think they are overpriced. And frankly, I could get a cheaper alternative that could be just as useful. More than that, I find Apple's ecosystem to be very limiting. And if you look at my size, you can tell that I was born to stand out, not fit in. But jokes aside, I do have two iPods that were gifted to me. One of them developed a technical snag. When I took it to the service center, they simply replaced the unit without asking a single question. No questions asked, no explanations demanded, no request for a bill. They simply scanned the barcode, found that the product was in warranty, and replaced the product. Now compare this to the time when I had an HCL laptop and I sent it for repairs. It was under warranty. One of the hinges had come loose. Now imagine my surprise when I asked the person to repair it and he asked me for a copy of the bill. Understand that those were the times when we did not have digital invoices. We had paper invoices that were difficult to maintain and were easily perishable. So when I told this person that, look, I don't have an invoice, He told me he was going to charge me 10,000 rupees to repair my laptop. Obviously, I found it absurd. And I took my laptop to Asia's biggest computer market, which is Nehru Place, and got it repaired there for 1,000 rupees. After which I sold that laptop off on eBay. Yes, eBay was around during those days. The point I'm trying to make is that here is an Indian product, which is HCL, compared with a product which is not Indian, which is Apple. I Now, if HCL had a music player of the caliber of, let's say, the iPod, I would never buy it from HCL because of that one experience that I had. To me, quality matters more than the ownership as to who owns a product. Second example, every one of us has heard about DVDs, digital versatile discs. Now, when they originally came out, each DVD was confined to a region. So if you bought a DVD in, let's say, United States, you could not play it in India without having to change the region of your DVD player, which you could only do a finite number of times. And it made the whole thing very difficult. Of course, what the DVD owners were trying to do was trying to establish ownership once again, saying that this thing was bought in such and such a location, should be played in such and such a location, cannot be played outside this location. We don't care. If you bought this DVD through proper means, it is not going to play anywhere else but in this location. To them, this seemed like a very bright idea. To the software industry, it came across as an opportunity to hack. In fact, there is a whole new file system that has been created. It is called DVD, it's called .divx, which is essentially a file ripped from a DVD file. Before I close, I would like to take the words of Carl Sagan. Now, on February 14, 1990, Voyager 1 took a photo of the Earth from Saturn, 6 billion kilometers away. And it appeared as a small dot suspended in a sunbeam in the vast emptiness of space. Now, Carl Sagan gave a wonderful lecture on it. And from that, I quote, think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and in triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by inhabitants of one corner of the dot on scarcely indistinguishable habitants of some other corner of the dot. How frequent the misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Again, this relates to ownership. And I come back to the question that I asked earlier. Should I buy a product just because it was made in India? Should I buy a product, or should I not buy a product just because it was made in China? Or whether it was not, or whether it was made in Pakistan or any other country that we might be hostile with. To me, the very reasoning that just because you own that product and I will not use it sounds absolutely absurd. And hence, my submission that ownership is overrated. Like I said, ownership is great when you want to establish accountability. But beyond that, it is just an ego trip. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh, for that insightful speech. Let's take a moment of silence, a minute, in fact, to jot down our feedback for the speaker. Thank you, Madam Timer. That brings us to the end of the prepared speeches section. You heard two wonderful speeches, and I'm sure you've taken down feedback, which is what we'll be using in the next segment, which is the evaluation segment. But before we jump into that and I call our general evaluator for the day, I'd like to walk you through some of the aspects of Robert's Rules of Orders. Actually, one aspect which really makes everything interesting for me. So this is an incident that Henry Robert once shared in an interview way back in the 1900s, early 1900s, actually late 1800s, yeah. So the incident goes as follows, that he was asked, why would you want to bring same set of rules for such diverse set of people? What was happening at the meetings were, at that time, religion played a great deal of influence in how people conducted themselves, as it does today as well in some parts of the world. So a lot of people would bring their religious views and religious practices into general common assembly meetings, which would arise a lot of conflict. And then people would call out each other for being out of order, to which Henry Roberts' mind said, how can you have something that's out of order without actually having a set order to follow? Which is how the inception of Robert's Rules of Order came into play. And as we jump into the evaluation segment, I would like to read out a few words from that particular interview itself. It says that you cannot force people to agree with you. But when persons are approached in a conciliatory spirit with an evident desire for the general good and willingness to yield personal preferences, where it can be done with no injury to others, I have found people responsive. And that is the essence with which we conduct our evaluations at Toastmasters as well, isn't it? With that, let's welcome our general evaluator for the day, Toastmasters Sandeep. Sandeep is a goal-oriented person and leads his life with passion. People call him a friend of everyone. A sales professional with 10 years experience, Toastmaster Sandeep is currently working as area manager at Daikin Air Conditioning India Private Limited. He has been a Toastmaster for almost 4.5 years now. Please put your hands together for General Evaluator Sandeep Kumar.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Now, all you know that this is very important sections for improvement of all the speakers and role players. So before I begin with the evaluation, I request all the members and guests, please give at least one feedback on commendation. If your recommendation and commendation have been covered, I request you to pass on so that we can finish the exact and appropriate comments and remarks for each and every role player. Let's begin with professional speaker. I would like to invite professional speaker Toastmaster Aditya Gupta on virtual stage. Aditya Gupta.
Thank you, sir, General Evaluator. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Perfect. I would love to hear what our tech master for the day, Raj sir, have to say about the speech.
Aditya, I found that your speech was very informative. I came to know a lot of things which I used to worry, but at the same time, I was working on it, frankly speaking. But the way I was working on it was a bit wrong. So I came to know that how I have to improve on that. As far as the delivery of the speech was concerned, I found that you were confident and composed, but at the same time, I felt that at times there was hesitation in your speech, and a little bit of more practice would have you could have made your PS much better. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Raj sir. Our district director, Nimish, would you like to share something from whatever part of the speech you heard.
Thank you, Aditya. This call was a surprise to me. Actually, I loved your speech. So personally, I was enjoying the eating habits that you explained for the 10-15 minutes. I loved it. I do not have any recommendations at this point because I did not hear half of your speech. I heard only the second half. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And welcome to the meeting. I would love to hear from our Rajma Chawal lover, PTM Rupinder Singh. And sorry to poke at the eating habits again and again. I know you don't like it very much.
I will continue to love Rajma Chawal no matter what. And that is where I have my recommendation for you, Aditya.
Yeah.
This speech, if given to a group of people who had turned up for a wellness camp, would have been an excellent speech because they would have resonated with the speech, they would have related to it. What if you were giving this speech to a group of disbelievers or non-believers in Ayurveda? I believe that if it was them, people like me, specifically speaking, I would not have been convinced by your arguments. And the reason for that is that you started out on a technicality. So when you talked about pith and the other three things, I don't even remember what they were, but when you started out with that, I could not relate because all this was far too technical for me. So probably if your intent was to convert believers into non-believers into believers, then maybe some context setting was required, which I believe was not there. Sorry for taking so long.
All right. No problem. I completely agree with that. In fact, I should have spent some more time on the conversion part of it rather than the informative bit. And so I would love to know from the timer if I still have some more time.
It is the green card, you can continue.
All right. Would love to hear what Anshu Priya has to say.
Yeah, I really liked your speech, and it was quite a mind opener. And I came to know about lots of things which I didn't know earlier. But I would agree with Rupinder that it needed more preparation because it was a little too much on information. So maybe some personal example throughout, or a little more like it wasn't easy to understand. It was too technical.
All right, got it. Thank you. Since the yellow card is up, from my understanding, I could summarize the recommendation into one bit. Practice a little more and try a bit of persuasive content more rather than the informative bit. With that, thank you so much. And with that, I hand it over back to General Evaluator.
Thank you, Aditya. Now, let's carry on this evaluation for prepared speeches sections. I would like to call our first speaker, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur, on virtual stage.
Thank you very much, General Evaluator Sandeep. The members and guests, as I have specifically requested you to give me feedback on my pronunciation as well as enunciation. I did not deliver it by standing and remembering the entire speech. So please, you can share with me other aspects also, but please keep this aspect as a prime focus. So can I request my feedback from Devina?
Hi, distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh. I only have commendations for you because I love that speech thoroughly. I love how you advocated for contests. You explained the value of contests, how one should react to contests. I felt like this is how judges training program should be conducted. I will enjoy them a lot more. I loved one bit that you did with your humor, which is you went with a general example, a specific example, which made Rupinder and I laugh our wits out, and then an inspirational example to just kind of close the entire loop and make things amazing. your use of however reminded me of all your previous speeches, and I was taken back to those experiences. I love that. I love the structure of this speech. The only recommendation I have, if any, is that I wanted to hear you speak more. Because you spoke less, I believe it also helped you speak more clearly. Had you spoken for a longer duration and utilized your entire 7 minutes, you could have fumbled towards the end, which is where we tend to start forgetting our speeches. Perhaps that is where my recommendation could have come in from. Apart from that, I have nothing to offer today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Devina. Can I hear from Tech Master, who had requested earlier me to take his evaluation?
Thank you, Mukesh. In fact, recently I also learned that in case you have 7 minutes or so for your speech, you should make your speech which should be over within 5 minutes or 5.5 minutes. Because what we have been doing, both of us, maybe others also, we make a lot of content and then we deliver it and then we speed it up. And this is where we lose our content on the words as well as the clarity. Today, I found a lot of much better clarity in your voice as well as in pronunciation. But at the same time, I found that there was not much expression on your face, expression of smile or any other thing. You were speaking, speech was good, but at the same time it lacked expression. But at the same time, I would say that some of the words are still required to be pronounced, maybe improved, like because. It's not because, it's because. Missing and missing. Bone was spoken as wall, and changes was needs to be improved. However, you spoke it thrice, but I think at each time it was spoken in a different way. And there was few more words. I shall be giving you the feedback in the form. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tech Master Raj Mehta, DTM. Can I have my feedback from Rupinder Singh, DTM? First, unmute.
Yes. Hi, Mukesh. Thank you for that wonderful speech. Absolutely loved it. Was hooked on. My first regret has been plagiarized by Devina. That why did it end so soon? My second challenge that I faced, Mukesh, particularly when you're asking about pronunciation, is that when it comes to consonant sounds, you seem to have a challenge. For example, when you say change, when you're supposed to say change, you focus too much on the CH and then the G. They come out very prominently. So that is probably something that you want to work with. I would suggest watch some English soaps and try to uh, mimic their accent. Back to you.
Thank you very much. I missed the timing timer. Can you please guide me how much time I
Yellow
have?
card is on. I think red is coming up.
Okay, so timer, you can give your feedback as well as conclude. Oh, red card is already up, so maybe I'll. Thank you very much for all of your evaluations, everyone. I need your evaluation in the form. Please fill it up. Otherwise, my short-term goal will never complete. Thank you.
Already did that.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur. So as the speaker requested, so I request again as a general welfare to give the feedback to the speaker on the mention form. Now let's come to the next and last evaluation for last speaker, Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh.
Thank you. I would want you to focus on the request I made earlier, that how much was I smiling through the speech and throughout the day, throughout the meeting as well. And I would like to start with our District Director, Distinguished Toastmaster, Nimish Joseph.
Thank you, Rupinder. This is for actually, I loved your speech. Again, I couldn't focus much on the speech thing because I was curious to hear more about the Robert Rules of Order and related things. But as usual, I felt that this is a different speech I'm hearing from you. So there was no amount of what to say, repetition or any of such things. So it was altogether a new speech from your side, which I'm hearing for the first time. So good speech.
Okay. Now, to the person with whom I share a relationship that is equivalent to Leonard Hofstadter and his mother, distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta.
Rupinder, I found your speech having a bit of humor and also coming to the point that ownership is overrated by some of the companies and sometimes by some people as well. At the same time, I found that the speech was informative, but as far as your short-term goal was concerned, that is smiling, that was missing, you know, on your face. But not only that, I found that you looked a bit angry today. I do not know why. Maybe at times you were also, maybe I felt that you were reading from the screen, or maybe you were not competent at the time. But otherwise, it was informative and it was interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the newest distinguished Toastmaster, Shipriya Gauri, in our club, that is.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. I overall really liked your speech. I like the way that you analyze different organizations and how their behavior actually affects the consumer's perception about them. My only request to you is that when you're using critical examples such as in HCL, you might not know that somebody in the audience could be working for the company or could have a positive affiliation to the company. So perhaps not use any specific names, or you could just mask them when you have to give any negative feedback or share any negative experience with such places. So that's my only request. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay. And to a fellow contestant, Aditya, how did you find my speech?
I loved loved your speech, and very well could relate and agree to a couple of points that you made. I wouldn't call this a recommendation. In fact, I'd call that a suggestion. And I've seen you talk in a regular social setting, and then I've seen you talk on a stage. And on the stage, honestly, I miss that Rupinder Singh, lover of Rajma Chawal, that arch nemesis of DTM Shivpriya, and the kind of person who's sarcastic, who's funny, and does what he does, and only he can do his best. So maybe one day I would love to see you in your natural phase, delivering an eye-opener, inspirational, persuasive, informative, whatever speech you want to, but in that natural Rupinder Singh flow, not in that some accent you get when you're in a trainer mode on a stage or on a virtual stage on a podium. So maybe just a suggestion, not exactly a recommendation.
All I could take from that was to criticize Shipriya. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Anshu Priya, what did you feel?
This was such an excellent speech, Rupinder. I just feel one recommendation for you, which is I find sometimes your speech is going monotonous. A little more voice modulation is required. That's how I feel for your speech. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. The yellow card is up, so I'll quickly wrap up. I have something to share. There was actually another part of the speech that I had to deliberately miss out. It would have probably tied in. It actually combines the three examples that I took, then kind of elaborates upon why ownership is overrated. But by that time, the red card had come up. And as some of you will recall, I do have a long-standing relationship with the red card. So that kind of put things into a bit of a problem. But again, we'll continue smiling. We'll continue to try to smile. Thank you so very much. And back to you, General Evaluator, for your time.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. I request rest of the members and the guests who have not provided the feedback, kindly give the feedback individually to the respective speakers. Now let's begin with taking the reports from the role players. First of all, I would like to call timer of the day, Toastmaster Hani Khanduja, to present her report.
Okay, so I was actually thinking that I have to.
I think the grammarian report comes first. That is per the agenda. So,
Yeah.
General Evaluator's call.
Okay. Thanks, Rupinder Singh. Let's change a little bit. Let's begin with grammar report first. Toastmaster Anshupriya Prasad.
Thank you, Sandeep. I would like to share my screen. And as you can see, today, the speaker who has used the most, who has used the good English is Mukesh, then Devina, then Rupinder, Aditya, and Rasa. And now I would like to, okay. And uh, nobody used the word of the day, which was brevity. And good use of English. I noticed many words today and sentences. Sense of well-being, transformative, mental characteristics. Brain is not designed to function. I was born to stand out, perishable, absurd, vast emptiness, plagiarized, dusk of the day, heart and soul of my mentors, leverage, exhilarated, devastated, tiny gap in information, jot down, voracious, insufferable. Now, the not so good use of English, and I must say it's a proud day today as a grammarian. I didn't find many mistakes. Some pronunciation mistakes I would like to tell you. It's repetitive, not repetitive. It's regressing, not regressing. And cohesion, it's not cohesion, it's cohesion. And it's determined, not determined. So that's it from me. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anshupriya. Now let us call the next role player, who is Toastmaster Shipriya, to present her report on our counter.
Thank you very much.
Toastmaster Shipriya.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. A very good evening to everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to be the accounter in today's meeting. Now I would go speaker wise and also mention that what role they have played while they have tried to or struggle not to use the R's and ums. Let's start with Toastmaster Aditya. As a professional speaker, the total number of R's he used or the total number of fillers he used were 18. What I realized that whenever he was trying to shift from the slides and whenever he was trying to bring in a new subject or new topic or was moving or was in the mid of transition, there were a lot of fumbles and there were some of R's, or he started using the word and. So and was not used in the proper way or as a conjugation. It was used in order for him to fill in some time while he was transitioning from one point to another. While taking evaluation and while giving evaluation, he used one R, one fumble, one R, and one pause, short pause, which was not intended. Coming to Toastmaster Anshupriya Prasad, while giving her short-term updates, she used 2 R's. While giving an evaluation to different Toastmasters, she used 4 R's, 1 pause, 3 ands or buts, 2 fumble, and 1 repetition, which was there. And the repetition was and the one more word which she used, which was not intended. So that makes other words, was now. Now was not used how it should be. The contextual meaning was not used. It was just used as a filler between 2 sentences. Now, as a grammarian, I realized there were a lot of R's. What I sensed that it was used to fill her time while she was struggling with technology. What I would advise her to do is that start sharing the screen before she was going to speak so that she doesn't use or reduce the effectiveness of her speech, or create a small pointer so that she doesn't have to use a lot of R's. For example, in the second part of her speech, when she was pointing out the good usages of words or vocabulary, there were very less R's and Ums. It was predominantly in the first half when she was struggling to actually decipher the information which was there on the screen and when she was trying to convert the same. Coming to Madam Toastmaster of the day, Distinguished Toastmaster Devina Chaturvedi used a lot of R's in while introduction. Her introduction of the speakers. While introducing the theme, she was absolutely flawless, and I was very, very happy to see. Having said that, as she progressed towards the speech or the meeting, there were a lot of ahs and ums. There were some fumbles, couple of fumbles, and there was one repetition. So she could perhaps try to have a calm demeanor before introducing any speaker on the stage so that she is able to do a fabulous job as she is. Coming to Devina as an evaluator, there was just one word which I felt was not fitting into the context, which was kind of. Kind of becomes her supporting word. Coming to Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur, in the BISSEC segment, he had used 3 R's, 1 but, and 1 repetition, which is, one was the repetition. And I felt that he was trying to extend his words, such as, for example, any word and it ends with a so there wasn't an separately. It was more of a stretching of the word, and that is something he was doing frequently. That is also an area of improvement for him. And as a speaker, there was only one one short pause, one and in two places he fumbled, and there was no extension or there was no dragging of a word. So I feel like with enough preparation, he would be able to do a fabulous job. I would request you to rehearse your BISSEC segment as well as while you're taking or giving evaluation so that it could increase the effectiveness of your speeches. Coming to Distinguished Toastmaster Nimish Joseph, there were 4 hours when he started, and in the second half of the evaluation was fine. There was one phrase which he used, I don't know what to say. So he used this word twice, and the first time it was only used as a filler. Similarly, Toastmaster Raj Mehta used I don't know twice. The first time he used was just as a filler. The second time when he used I don't know, it was genuinely or it was contextually fitting. Distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta had a few stumbles and was a victim of ours when he was trying to give evaluation to other people. Coming to the presiding officer, I think Mr. Or Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh is my favorite candidate for today. He had 8 hours in his presiding officer address. That is something he could definitely take care of it. He can also check the YouTube channel to verify the same, looking at his expressions, but please do take care of it. What I feel is that when you're trying to think, that's when you have a lot of us. So maybe have a structured thought. I could see that you're trying to think what the second sentence is. So have a structured thought, put it in a paper, and then you could rehearse it. So when you actually have a prepared speaker, when you know what you're going to speak, or when you know what you plan to speak next, there is less ahs and ums. Having said that, when you're speaking on the flow, and especially when you're struggling with technology to start the presentation and everything, when you're doing when you're doing a lot of things together, there's a lot of ahs and ums. So I would request you to take care of it. But as a speaker, when you were taking the evaluation and as an evaluation giver, I felt that there were less evidences or less areas where the effectiveness was reduced. Coming to the general evaluator, Sandeep Kumar, in this segment, there was just 1 hour. As a general evaluator, there were 2 hours. And as the BISSEC member, Shivpriya Gauri DTM had 1 hour and 2 repetitions, which I counted. And again, I tend to stretch my words saying because I did not know what I was going to speak next. And as an evaluator, I had 1 ums. So overall, we had today 135 ahs and ums, and our favorite part of or the biggest weapon to which we all were victims were ahs and ums, which were 61. So I would be sharing my report in the WhatsApp group, and let's try to reduce and kill this particular evil, which is reducing our speech effectiveness. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, District Toastmaster Shipriya Gauri for such a detailed report. Now let's call our last role player of the day, Toastmaster Hani Khanduja, to present timer's report. Toastmaster Hani Khanduja.
Okay, so finally, let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope I'm able to do justice to the timer's role. So this is the first time ever I tried using this Excel sheet. Thanks to our president, Mr. Rupinder Singh, who helped me with creating this detailed structure along with my phone. So for the speakers, I have the timing. For the professional speaker, he took 16 minutes 32 seconds. For speaker number 1, Mukesh Thakur, he took 5 minutes 42 seconds. And Rupinder took 7 minutes 46 seconds. Now, what all areas we could have improved a bit are the timings where you see it red and it's overtime, but not all of them are overtime to a large extent. So probably those are the places where we are either introducing the speaker by the host or we are moving into a transition thing. So like you can see that only 7 minutes 46 seconds is a overtime. That's only I think 16 seconds. And then here we have 2 minutes 35 seconds. In the evaluation report, we had the overtime of the R counter with 7 minutes 4 seconds as the overall timing of the R counters report. The transition time were only, I think there was one peak that was when there were a confusion of grammarian and timer, and the first transition, which was for the professional speaker's introduction. If you see the start versus actual, we have been doing fairly good in the meeting, and the gray line denotes wherever is the actual start and what should be the ideal start. That's the dark blue line. Similarly, for the stop versus actual stop, if you see the red one is the actual stop when we did. So there were a couple of speakers who were doing less, like Mukesh Thakur ended the speech quite early. Rupinder, as the president in his notes, ended his note earlier, but that was then again used by several other speakers when they went over time. And for timer's report, I have already taken 3 minutes. So
Honey,
that's
could
all
you
from
could
my
you go
side.
to the Honey, could you go to the role players sheet once again, please?
Yeah. Yes.
So this actually tells who went overtime.
Yeah.
So this
As a
takes,
role player.
yeah.
So for the meeting host, Devina Chaturvedi, she went 19. Her allocated time was 14 minutes and she went for 19 minutes 32 seconds at 3 places that we have noted. Speaker 2, Rupinder, he was
So this is the cumulative time,
second.
includes
Yes.
every time. So
Yeah, so that's your time at the Pressy also. And
yes.
then the R counter, the recorded time is 7 minutes 4 seconds. I'll be sharing this detailed report in the group and probably over an email as well, so that we can help ourselves and get our meetings into a better shape as respect to the time. Thank you so much. Over to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Hani, for sharing such a concise report. Now, let's hear how we did on the on the meeting part in general. Starting with presiding officer, I think I don't have any such thing to give any suggestions because everything went perfectly as a presiding officer. Second, come to the Toastmaster of the day. She did a very wonderful job. The only recommendation which I gave to Toastmaster day is to actually respect the times. Now come to the evaluation part. Everything was done in a very, I would say, encouraging way and beautiful way. The only recommendation which I gave to evaluators is don't use but during the evaluation because it gives a very negative impact. However, you can give the recommendation rather than using the word but. Grammarian, I would rate 100 out of 100 because there was no error. Everything was in a perfect way. Our counter report it was such a detailed report. I would advise to focus on main things, concise report, that how did we did as a prepared thing, and how can we did as a counter and an unprepared one. That gives a brief idea to the speaker that how can they actually fumble or maybe use the arms when they are actually in a prepared role way or unprepared role way. Last but not the least, the timers. Everything is within the time limits. That the timing cards are visible, reports sharing of detailed way, and I appreciate the hard work done by District Toastmaster Rupinder Singh to present in a very detailed and graphical way. And I think it's the message where we can work on, and where we actually leading as and starting from the meeting. Coming to the Tech Master, I have two recommendations for Tech Master. One is I think audio video check and the confirmation of timer screen availability before the meeting. I think it was missed. Second, the spotlight of the video for respective speakers, that was missed. Overall, I would rate, it's a very great meeting today. I would rate 9 out of 10. Now, as you know that we have a very important section, Moments of Truth, which would be conducted by District Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. That is all from my side. I would like to call District Toastmaster Rupinder Singh to conduct the Moments of Truth. I will present my report on the group. Over to you, District Toastmaster Rupinder Singh.
Okay. Sandeep, there are many who will tell you that any relationship between me and truth is strictly coincidental. So, once again, I am not going to be taking the moments of truth. It will be Distinguished Toastmaster Devina Chaturvedi. But before I call her on stage, I would like to take feedback from Distinguished Toastmaster Nimish Joseph as to how did he feel about the meeting. Nimish, we have a couple of sessions more in our meeting. One is the power talk, the other is table topics. But today, because of because of moments of truth, we cut down on those two. So, based on what you saw, what is your assessment?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Devina for the invite. I missed out the first half. In fact, I was here to listen more about Robert Rules of Order, as I mentioned. But unfortunately, I missed out maybe like 5 or 6 minutes of her session. But I'm really impressed the way the reports were presented. Anshu's report, Honey's report, and everything, how it came, Shivpriya's report, all was so well documented. And I felt that this is probably how a Toastmasters can really connect with a B school. The way the analysis and the things have been presented. And I believe that this kind of approach is something that we should be taking to demo meetings when we go to a B school kind of a place. They will love it. They will love it for sure. And the way everything happened, all the speeches, it was amazing. I loved Aditya's speech, your speech. And when Mukesh was giving a speech, I felt that, oh my God, he's going to point on me, the district, because of the humorous speech thing. I really appreciate, because I have been hearing Mukesh only one humorous speech. Today, I felt that, no, Mukesh can deliver even better speeches which are humorous in nature. And probably he can develop as as kind of one of his areas. So I appreciate Mukesh for delivering the speech. In fact, for the first half, I was really happy. So towards the second half, I felt that, okay, now it's going to be more generic kind of stuff. But I really appreciate Mukesh delivering humorous speech, and I would recommend him to give more speeches, because in fact, when I listened for the first 2-3 minutes, I was having that sort of laughter, and I was feeling, okay, what is he going to say about the cancelling of win contest? Oh my God, like this is what the members are going to actually talk about it. Trust me, like it was not my decision alone. It was like the entire district executive committee's decision. So let me put the blame on someone else. And it's just for 1 year. We are not planning to, as in, I cannot talk for the next year. But one thing when we decided, we all collectively discuss is that just for this year, because it is online, let's not do humorous speech contest, because we do not know when we are going to have face-to-face meetings. We expect physical meetings to start by January, and that is the reason why we felt that, okay, let's go ahead and kind of avoid one contest so that our district officers can focus on the right struggle that district is facing this year. That is membership retention. And I saw Hani giving me a thank it's okay message. I do not know if she messaged this as a timer, but I would not like to extend my timings and bore you. I would also take a leave very soon because there is some work for me to do at home. Thank you, Devina, for this invite. Thank you, Rupinder, for the constant reminders and invites. But this is finally the last one time that I could join. But I would love to join again. Thank you all.
And what is the hallmark of a good speech is that when the district director himself has to come up and explain himself. So Mukesh, you should really be proud of yourself at what you have accomplished. Thank you so very much, Nimish, for being a part of this meeting. We hope to have you soon. We have a session called Power Talk. So anytime you would like to give that, it's an 8 to 10 minute speech centered around communication. Anytime you can do that, you just let us know and we will fix up a time for you. And I will have Devina on your case because I think she specializes in going after the lives of district directors and getting them to our meetings. So thank you so very much, Nimish. We are now going to move into the moments of truths part. And for that, I would like to call on stage our distinguished Toastmaster, Devina Chaturvedi. I still am wondering, how do you do an MSc in economics? Back to you.
It's okay. You can live with that. We can all live with the fact that I did an MSc in economics, I'm sure. All right. Welcome, members, to the Moments of Truth. I'll be sharing my screen to share the results of what we rated our club as on various parameters. But just to give a little bit of context before we jump into that, let's just revise what Moments of Truth are very quickly, so that we enter into the session with the right mindset. So forget about Toastmasters for a moment and just think about moments of truth that you've experienced in your life. That time when you've placed an order and you wait for the chef to bring your dish and you're waiting that, all right, they would have got everything right for once. That time when you proposed to somebody and you were waiting for them to answer, hoping it would be a yes, because otherwise you'd be crushed. That time when you're waiting for the tally counter and your counters to come back with the election vote counting, and they're not revealing who won, they're just being coy. We don't know, it'll be announced in a few seconds. They're just waiting there, hoping that it'll be your name that's announced. Those are all moments of truth, right? Moments of truth in the sense how well we fared, how well we've communicated, and how well we're going to do going forward. What is the expectation what is the thing that's expected of us and how well we meet it. So that's the essence of a moment of truth. So let's just keep that in mind as we jump into the session. We know that with Toastmasters, there are 6 parameters that we rate our clubs on. There are first impressions in terms of...
Emoti Master, just want to know that would you want this also to be on YouTube, considering that this is club's business?
I would like to seek our club presiding officer's views on that.
Because this is...
Let's just have the recording. We can always edit it later, perhaps.
It's on live. That's the question. Thank you.
Since it's live, should we continue?
Maybe we can stop the live and we can record it, and if we decide to share it with the club members, we can do that. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll wait. And I'll hide this in the meantime.
I'm stopping the live streaming.
Wonderful. Sounds good, Ratsa.